They call this place the witness ledge, a single point in space that has watched empires rise and fall. As a historian, it was my job to decipher its silent stories, to read the history in the erosion of the rock and the rings of the ancient pine. I came here seeking the past, never imagining it was also seeking me. The fragment I found that day was not made of clay or paper. It was made of silver and time. The craftsmanship was exquisite, a clockwork pattern that seemed to hum with a dormant energy. The moment my finger touched the spinning gears inside, the world shifted. The air grew thick, the light warped. The bark of the ancient pine next to me seemed to flow like water, its rings blurring into centuries. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. My sturdy hiking boots were gone, replaced by delicate slippers. I was wearing a simple grey 18th century gown. A voice called my name. Sarah! A handsome young man in the attire of a colonial gentleman was walking towards me, a gentle smile on his face, acting as if I belonged there. He offered me a single, perfect wild flower, a promise of what's to come, he said. But before I could take it, a distant drumbeat began. The revolution had come for him. "Wait for me," he pleaded, and ran down the path to join a war I knew from my history books he was destined to lose. As the drumbeats faded, the locket grew intensely hot, and the world dissolved once more. The loops became faster. I was a helpless passenger in a carousel of tragedy. A 1,920 seconds businessman, his dreams of progress turning to ruin with the sound of a distant crash. A 1,950 seconds greaser, handsome and reckless, who laughed off my warnings and sped towards his fate. A futuristic pilot whose kind eyes saw only the stars, never the critical error flashing on his console. Each time, I was there. Each time, they met their end. The locket wasn't a window to the past, it was a prism, forcing me to watch the same play with different actors. I landed back in my own time, on my knees, the locket falling from my hand. The shock was gone, replaced by a cold academic resolve. This wasn't a haunting, it was a puzzle, a historical anomaly. I tried to intervene, to warn them, but my actions only seemed to make their fates crueler. Conclusion: I could not alter their destinies. The question was no longer what is happening, but why? If I couldn't save them, what was the point of my presence? What was the purpose of my pain? I stared at the locket, accusing my jailer. And in that moment of pure, focused despair, it responded. The gear patterns on its surface shifted, morphing into the beautiful, complex pattern of a weaver's loom with a single central thread connecting everything. The ancient pine next to me began to pulse with a faint, ethereal blue light, mirroring a glow from the locket itself. The tree was a living record, a witness to every era, and the locket was its interpreter. Among the fleeting memories flowing from the tree, one face kept reappearing. A woman, her auburn hair and determined eyes so much like my own. My ancestor, Ilara, the first guardian. I finally understood. The twist was not that I was a witness to tragedy. It was that I was the cause. My presence in that spot, a constant anchor across time, was the gravitational point around which their lives turned. I wasn't watching alternate histories. I was the common thread, and by being there, I was weaving them. The loop stopped. I was floating in a place outside of time, face to face with an entity of pure light and clockwork, the consciousness of the Locket. The test was complete. It presented me with a final, real choice. Not a simulation. 2 threads of light appeared, branching from my heart. One showed a vision of a quiet academic life, safe but lonely. The other, a life of perilous adventure with Ben, the archaeologist I admired, full of love and risk, my own 2 futures. But the Locket had taught me its final lesson. Why choose a pre-written fate when I could be the author? I looked at the entity and smiled. I reached out, not to choose one thread, but to take them both, weaving them together into a new 3rd path of shimmering, interwoven light. A future of my own design, built on both knowledge and love, on both safety and courage. The entity nodded, as if this was the answer it had been waiting for all along. The light of my own creation washed over me, and I was back on the witness ledge just moments after I had first opened the Locket. The world was unchanged, but I had been remade. I clipped the Locket's chain around my neck. It was no longer a mysterious artifact. It was my tool, my birthright. I looked out at the valley, not as a historian observing a fixed past, but as a weaver seeing the infinite, shimmering possibilities of the future. My work was no longer about reading history. It was about learning from its echoes, and gently, carefully, helping to write a better tomorrow. My journey was just beginning.